If you're looking for a new mobile phone and you're on a budget, and your priorities are battery life, a good design, and a decent 1080p display, then this mobile here is worth a look. It's the Xiaomi Redmi Note 4X, powered by a Snapdragon 625, has 3GB of RAM and 32GB of internal storage. So the Redmi Note 4X, just like the Redmi Note 4 that I reviewed, has a 4100 mAh battery, so it's quite a large battery. But this time around, we have a 14nm Snapdragon 625 chipset that is very efficient. Now I can get, as you'll see later on, an amazing screen on time with this combination. So the design of the Redmi Note 4X is very similar to the Redmi Note 4. We've got the same front panel, a 1080p display with 2.5D glass, backlit menu keys, front-facing 5-megapixel camera with f2.0 aperture. On the rear we see a slight design change here. The top and bottom is made out of plastic. The rear is still made out of an alloy. We've got the rear 13-megapixel camera, a dual-tone LED flash. Below that is the fingerprint reader. On the right, metal volume up and down and power buttons. On the left side there's just the SIM tray here, so it'll take either 2 SIM cards or a micro SD card and a SIM. On the bottom we have the loudspeaker, micro USB 2 port and microphone. And lastly on the top, the secondary microphone for noise cancellation and video. We have an IR transmitter and the 3.5mm headphone jack. Overall I find the build quality to be really good. It's just a shame that the top and bottom we have a bit of plastic there. But it does feel better in hand thanks to those new rounded edges on the alloy rear. Rear fingerprint reader works really well. It unlocks instantly. All you need to do is just place your scanned finger on the rear there. There's no need to wake the phone first, and it works every single time for me. Here's a close-up of the screen here indoors. It looks great. Deep blacks, good colors. A top 1080p panel, I'd say. It is very, very nice. The only thing is that in daylight, the sunlight legibility isn't the greatest. So the ROM performance in general is good. I haven't noticed too many stutters or hiccups, but now and then I have actually just gone through, after not using the phone for maybe a few hours, gone in here, gone to scroll along and seen a little tiny bit of stutter here and there. Now there is no apps drawer with MIUI, that's just the way it is. So your widgets, your apps, they're all there. A lot of people are familiar with this ROM, and I've been using MIUI now for quite a few years, and I've gotten used to it. I don't mind it now. Now, there was a bit of bloatware on here with the Chinese ROM that I got. Now, if you get the global ROM, you won't see any bloat, but I managed to uninstall at least 90% of that, so it's not too much of a problem. And I'll show you quickly the version here. So it's running Android 6. I have 3GB of RAM, and the latest version here, which is MIUI 8.1.12, at least at the time of this review. Now RAM management can be a little bit aggressive. I've noticed that it doesn't take too long before it will actually kill off applications in the background when you do a bit of multitasking. For example, if I had a game there running in the background, if I went into WhatsApp and then back to the game, if 5 minutes had passed, it'll have to reload it in there again, which is a bit of an issue, but it's still not as aggressive as my Samsung Galaxy S7 with TouchWiz. That seems to actually kill things off even quicker than that, where here we get around 10 to 5 minutes before it will force you to reload apps. Now memory use seems to be quite high with MIUI, that tends to be normal, but it doesn't seem to affect the battery life, so I'm not really too concerned about that. Now I do have some benchmarks here, which I like to go through on these mobiles, just to give you an idea. You can compare this to your own mobile phone. So 61,000, that's the Antutu 6.2.7 score. That's okay for this chipset. I mean, it's nothing amazing. Neither is the Geekbench 4 score here. But this mobile is about efficiency, it's about battery life, and having performance, at least enough performance to do gaming and all your typical mobile tasks. That's the compute score. And here we have a Work 2 performance score of almost 5,000. Again, that's alright for the chipset. The internal storage speeds, quite good here actually. So 270 almost with the read speeds, and then 76 on the write. Here's the wireless speeds that I tested out. So good performance out of wireless. I got the same speed out of my laptop, and the range is also good thanks to the plastic that I used top and bottom. And here's my 4G speeds. I tested out another mobile that I had with me, which was my Galaxy S7, and it got about the same speed there. So no problems there connecting up with 4G networks here, at least in New Zealand. and GPS also works very well, no problems with that. Now this is a little bug here that I came across that I wanted to point out, that sometimes when loading games this would happen. It only seems to happen with the Gameloft games. So this was Asphalt Extreme, and it stretched out all funny, forcing me to have to reload the game. That is the only bug I have encountered with the ROM. Now onto audio quality. I first wanted to mention the 3.5mm headphone jack. Sounds perfectly fine to me. There is no static, no interference. I do wish it was a little bit louder. It's perhaps going to be a little too quiet for some people who are going to drive a huge headset. Now call quality, good. It sounds clear. It sounds very similar to my Mi Max. No complaints with the audio performance. The caller said I sounded fine. They sounded fine to me. All good there. Now the loudspeaker, there's one down the bottom. I'm going to test it out now, and we'll have a listen to how that sounds. So it has some volume to it, as you could hear there, hopefully. It doesn't distort it 100% that much, maybe a tiny little bit. It's an okay loudspeaker for the price range, but it definitely won't be the best or the loudest you've heard. Now onto battery life here, which is, I would say, the best part of this mobile. It has a battery on there which is 4,000 or 4,100 milliamp hours. That's a very large capacity, but paired with the Snapdragon 625, it is very hard to kill this battery. I'll just show you an example here. This is my battery use. So I've been playing games a lot. Asphalt, well, rear racing here for 1 hour. Asphalt was about an hour as well. And Modern Combat, 35 minutes. I used a bit of WhatsApp, Champions, Clash of Clans. If you have a look at the history here, it drains down nicely. Standby time as well is very good. So overnight, it was only losing approximately 3%. Really good. Wireless was on the whole time, and the network signal. And most importantly, check out this screen on time here that I managed to get. Using it for 2 days with very heavy use, almost 15 hours. That is really, really, really good. Now with my standard normal use, I don't tend to game that much. I was gaming more on it, just testing out gaming performance. I could easily get 4 days, maybe even 5 with light use. I'm normally just medium to light use. Now charging times, it took 2.5 hours with a Qualcomm 3 charger. That's not included, so it does actually support fast charging, because using the standard charger, it took 4 hours and 8 minutes to fully charge using the supplied 5V 2A one. So gaming performance on the Snapdragon 625 isn't the most powerful chipset that you can get on a mobile, but it certainly is good enough to actually play all the demanding games out there. This is Asphalt Extreme, for example. It's a demanding game, and it does have playable frame rates. You will notice now and then the occasional little dips and slowdown, so it's not perfect, but it is still good enough to play all of those games out there with at least playable frame rates and good visuals. Looking at the stock camera application now, so the shutter rate is quite quick. In these kind of lighting conditions, it's perfectly fine. We'll actually take a decent photo. It's only in low light where the quality drops right off, as to be expected for this price range. So you get a various amount of modes in here. Typical modes you see with MIUI 8. Manual setting there, you can control only the ISO and white balance, so not really that much that you can tweak. Got various different filters as well there down below. I don't tend to actually use those, to be honest. Now if I move into video mode, it crops a little, as you can see. Now we can only shoot up to 1080p with the stock application. Now if you go over to, you can see here, Full HD only. But if you go over and use a third-party application like Open Camera, you can shoot in 4K. This is a 1080p sample. Quality isn't too bad, as long as you're shooting during the day. Nighttime, it's really bad. And most people probably won't be buying this mobile for the camera quality, at least the video quality. But it's not, I mean, it's not the worst. I have seen definitely better. Now the focus tends to work erratically. So sometimes it will get a good lock, other times it tends to just go in and out. It seems to be better to actually use the tap to focus to get a good lock on your subject there. Now let's have a look at 4K. Nice close formation, yeah, it's very good. So we have a 5 megapixel front facing camera with the same f2.0 aperture, 720p maximum resolution. The quality is alright, but like most of these phones in this price range, as soon as you get into low light, then the frame rate really dips below 30 frames per second. It doesn't look very good, but here it's perfectly fine, and it's good for video calls, applications like Skype, when you're in good lighting. So that's my review there. Just to summarize the pros, it has a very nice 1080p display, amazing battery life. You can get almost 15 hours of on-screen time there. It in fact is a battery that is very hard to kill. Even gaming, it will still last for at least 7 to 8 hours, depending on your brightness setting of course, but that is an amazing feat there. The Snapdragon 625 does have enough power to play every single game out there with at least playable frame rates. Now, the build of it is quite good. We still have a little bit of plastic there on the top and bottom, but it's not too bad. They have tweaked the design slightly over the Redmi Note 4. Fingerprint reader works very quick indeed, no problems with that. And the other thing too is the camera. It's disappointing again. Honestly, I did not expect much because Xiaomi seem to always just skip on their cameras, and they have yet again with the Redmi Note 4X. The Samsung sensor can take an okay photo in daylight, but in low light conditions it's poor. Video quality also is quite poor. The audio is the worst part of it. It tends to sound like the noise cancellation is just too high, working too hard there. But despite that, if you're after battery life, good price, good screen, decent build quality, this is it apart from the camera. It's a really decent phone. Thank you so much for watching this review here. Hopefully I'll catch you back in the channel with more up and coming reviews on tech. Bye for now.